How's it going, folks? Stu here. If you have a keen memory and you can think all the way back to the beginning of February, feels like a bloody decade ago, you can do it, I believe in you. You'll remember I said this. This year's releases, though, even more bloody whack, which means there are a few I truly desperately wanted to see before I made my best of 2020 list. But I'm just not waiting. I'm just not waiting till March, dude. I can't do it. I'm looking at you, Minari. Well, here we are. It's the beginning of March, and this bad boy's seen Minari. Your move time, you perpetually progressing son of a bitch. If you've not heard about Minari, allow me to enlighten you. It's why you're here. It is a somewhat semi-autobiographical story directed by Isaac-Chung, and it's about a Korean family who moved to America in the 80s, and we see their sort of dream of establishing a bit of land for themselves in America and doing something with it. But this film just sort of ticks kind of exactly all the boxes I want to be ticked in a film. I think the thing that I love the most about it is just its kind of warmness. It's got a very warm feel to it, and that tone just works perfectly with the story it's trying to tell. As I said, it's sort of semi-autobiographical for the director Isaac-Chung here, but from what I gather, it's based on a lot of real experiences that he had when he was growing up as a child, and that really shines through pretty much everything here. It has a really kind of, I don't know, like a personal touch. Like, you can see that this is someone's experiences bleeding through in film, and I love it when films do that. It always adds something extra to it, makes it a little bit more special when you can tell it's a very personal project for a director or a writer, which he does both of here brilliantly. I guess on the surface, it's quite a simple narrative. It's a family that have moved to a new location and they're thrown in the middle of it there. But Isaac-Chung does such a good job of just establishing a really believable and genuine family unit in his cast and in his characters. And I think that's one of the things that makes this film work. Everyone is so good in this film. I mean, I'm going to start with Steven Yeun. I honestly think Steven Yeun is one of the best actors working currently, and his projects at the moment, he's just nailing them, isn't he? He's just nailing that shit. And he is such a great choice for this role because he brings this kind of immediate, you want to root for this guy. You don't want to see this guy fuck up and mess up and lose everything. But at the same time, he has this kind of, I guess, cold, stubborn side to him, which is a really interesting dynamic and is exactly what this film is begging for. It's what the character needs, and he just brings that naturally, I think. You can always understand and empathize with what his character's going through, and I think that comes from the warmth that someone like Steven Yeun brings to a role. But he also, I mean, he just kills it in a dramatic sense. Watching Steven Yeun cry is always tough, so there's that. But alongside him is Yeri Han, who is equally as brilliant in this film. And similar to Steven Yeun, there's this kind of subtlety and understatedness to her performance, which I think really, really works. And that makes the two of them work really, really well together. You get a sense through their performances and through the writing that they both have their own drives, they have their own ambitions. And that clashes, and that also sometimes aligns, and seeing that between them is really, really interesting and really, really wonderfully pulled off from a performance perspective. So I really loved seeing them as a couple. You just immediately buy them, you believe them, and you want them to work, which I think is another integral part of this film. Wanting the relationships to work out really does drive the drama in the film, which sounds a bit obvious to say, but there's a world where this doesn't get done right, and I'm glad that it did get done right. What am I saying? But I guess we can't really not talk about Alan Kim, who I'm sure if you've seen anything about Minari online, from any of the marketing, on any social media, from people that have seen it, you've probably seen Alan Kim, who is the young child in the film. He's the son, the brother, and he... Yeah, what can I say that hasn't already been said about Alan Kim? He's an adorable and sassy but brilliant little child performance in the film. I feel like there's almost like a risk and a tendency to feel immediately a little bit cynical towards stuff like that, especially when you see it being pushed so hard in the marketing online, like everyone going nuts about this cute little boy and it becoming that thing about the film. When you go into it, you're like, I really hope it's not just that he's a cute, sassy boy. I'm always here for that shit, but it's nice that there's more than that in the film. But you do kind of form a bit of an attachment with him, which is obviously a sign that things are being done well in the film. Don't know how more explicit I need to be on that one. I love him. I do. And it almost feels Like, I've let myself down by getting sucked up into all the, oh, cute little adorable sassy Korean boy in the marketing, but there's a reason that it is that. He's amazing. He's wonderful. I loved him. His sister in the film, played by Noel Cho, brilliant as well. The two of them together work really well. I like their relationship and I like their dynamic, which is a theme throughout all of these performances. They all feel like they do have a genuine relationship, and I care about their relationships, which is obviously integral to the drama of this film. But the real standout for me, and I was quite surprised about this because, I don't know, I didn't expect the character to be as big a thing as the character ended up being. I guess that's part of not knowing much about the film going into it. But Yoo Jung-yoon, I think I'm saying it right, I hope so, was unbelievable. I loved her so much as the grandma in this family relationship. And I didn't, it's like a growing thing through the film. At first I was like, oh, she just feels like a grandma that pops in. I thought she was going to be a bit of a side character. And I was really, really satisfied with the way her character ended up going. And I ended up caring so much about her, which makes her performance even more, I don't want to say heartbreaking, but it's got a lot of the emotional weight that I connected with in her character, which I just didn't expect from the way this film sets itself up. And I think that speaks to something in Lee Isaac-Chung's writing and direction that really, really impressed me. And that is the way that it sort of evolves its narrative focus through the characters in the film, because it sets itself up as a family dynamic, a family drama. And yeah, I guess there are main character relationships that are at the forefront of the film, but it really interestingly weaves through those perspectives in a way which doesn't feel like it ends up losing out to other ones, if that makes much sense. It would be very easy to be like, okay, you've got a dad who's completely driven to his goal of setting up a farm, and that's alienating himself from the family. Let's just do that. And then all these other things are little side characters, but it pivots and it twists. So yes, you have that stuff in there, but you also learn about the grandma. As I said, she becomes more of a prominent character, and you start to understand her relationship a bit and what that does to everyone else in the family. But you've also got the mother, you've got the children. It weaves through each of their perspectives really, really smoothly, I guess. It's a very fluid, moving dynamic there, and I enjoyed that about it. And I think it's those perspectives that make it feel so kind of human and genuine. And it feels cliche and cheesy to say that shit, but it is true. It feels like an incredibly human film. You empathize with characters that aren't making the best decisions for themselves and their family in the moment, but you appreciate why they're doing it and you understand why they're doing it, which is sometimes quite a difficult line to dance on, I think, as a director and a writer. And Lee Isaac-Chung, I think he nails it. Honestly, I thought there were moments after moments after moments in a film where I understand exactly why a character is making the decision, which is frustrating to the audience in that moment. It would be very easy to be like, just think you're a bit of a dick. Why don't you just make any other choice? But you don't feel that. You understand why they're doing things. And that makes the drama feel more natural, and it makes the family unit feel more natural, which is, yes, nailed it. That's what it's going for, and it did it. And I really loved the way that this film ended. And this is gonna difficult to discuss without going into spoilers. But I'm gonna try. There is an argument, I guess, to be made that the film's narrative might be seen as quite obvious or predictable, or that it just sort of does things that you think are gonna happen. And I guess I could see where people that think that might come from. But by the time it comes around to that, it's like the perspectives have shifted so much that really it's not about whether or not certain narratives happen the way that you think they're gonna happen. And I really like the very, very end of this film, the actual way this film ends before it cuts to black. That sequence and that scene, really beautiful stuff, really poignant and really moving, and does such a good job of putting the entire film into perspective. It's sort of like, this is what this was all about, and it's a really lovely, heartwarming feeling to be sat with. It's really moving, and I find it all incredibly relatable, even though I don't obviously have the exact experience of a Korean family moving to America in the 1980s. Guess what? I didn't do it. It didn't happen to me. But that's what's so interesting, is that Lee Isaac-Chung has crafted something which is so relatable and yet specific in its experience. Like, it's a very personal, specific experience from him, but it speaks to so many universal things about families and about relationships. which make it almost impossible not to get completely sucked into, and I just found it to be wonderful. It's a really heartwarming time. It's also got an absolutely wonderful soundtrack as well. The score from Emil Mosseri here is sublime. I can't wait to listen to this thing over and over. In fact, I have been. I've been listening to this soundtrack over and over. I don't know why I said I can't wait. I've been doing it. He also did the score for Last Black Man in San Francisco, which was also Chef's Kiss. So he's great. End of that. I also really feel like the score reminded me in moments of Place Beyond the Pines. Did anyone else get that? That kind of warm undertone, and then there's like this over the top like, ooh. Not gonna do any more of that. That's that done. Park that one. But it all adds to this really kind of charming, heartwarming, and just nice. I don't like to use that word nice because it's a bit of a basic word, but it's just a nice time. I'm so happy that this film delivered in the ways I wanted it to deliver, and I just want to kind of hug it and just always never stop hugging it. I'd like that, please. I wish I could have seen this in the cinema as my first time watching it, and I'll always be a little bit heartbroken that that wasn't the experience I was able to get, but I'll take having seen it. I'll take that. Okay, yeah, I'll take any of that win. But what about you guys? Have you had a chance to check out Minari yet at the film festival in the UK? Or if you're across the pond, it's general release. We've still got to wait over here. I think it's the end of this month, maybe next. It's coming out in the UK, so if you haven't seen it, get excited too. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you loved it as much as I and seemingly everyone else in the world has, or if you thought didn't love it. In which case, you're wrong. I'll see you guys very soon for some more reviews for films which I've been catching up on. It feels weird catching up on because they came out in a lot of other places in 2020, but they're not out here yet. So they're still early and late. I hate this time. Have a lovely rest of whatever day it is that you're watching this. All of them. Have a great week, especially you, Jung Yun. I hope you have the best week of all. You absolute miracle of a woman.